Hey Bat fans, Luke here, back with another video, and tonight's video is actually a response to Sleepy Reader, who recently did a tag video of if you were to reboot Batman, what would you do? And that's not exactly what he said, but that's pretty much using the Cliff Notes version of what he was asking. It was actually a really good video, and it was open and wasn't really mentioned anyone in particular. He mentioned a couple, but it was pretty much fair game. So if you want to do this, by all means, go ahead and do so and post it, and I'd be very interested to see what everyone has to say. But yeah, this is what I want to do, and it's pretty exciting. And Sleepy's his video was very good and brought a lot of good points. So yeah, my response here. Generally speaking, this one's going to be straight off the cuff. I didn't really take any notes or kind of put any structure to this. This really is going to be right off the cuff, and just kind of wing it. And basically, I think I say that is because, for the most part, I don't think I would change all too much, but what I would change would, I think, be pretty significant. And we'll just go ahead and start with kind of the tone of Batman. And I say this, and some of the things I might critique here in the next couple minutes, let's not get it twisted. I think Batman is in a very good place right now. Going back for I don't know how long, the only main Batman title that I sort of had an issue with, there was actually two. Detective Comics toward the end did get kind of bad. And Arkham Manor. But other than that, recent memory, Batman books have been, well, do you count We Are Robin? Okay, going down a rabbit hole. That's not Batman. That's a side character, but whatever. Batman really is in a good place. But what I think, since the New 52, is I think if I kind of sum up into like a slogan or a catchphrase, any good organization, whether it be sports or a corporation, whatever, you'll hear the term, getting back to basics. And I think that's something, maybe if I were to do a reboot of Batman, that's sort of, I think, what I would do, is get back to the basics. And what I mean by that, I think kind of twofold. First, let's start, okay. I wasn't going to go off on another tangent, but I think this is a good point to kind of go over, kind of like the tone of Batman. And believe it or not, what I think was kind of like the media release that really captured what I think would be a really good Batman. Not really in the character, but really as the tone and the level of realism, was actually the Christopher Nolan Batman run in the movies. Batman Begins and Dark Knight Rises. Again, not necessarily the level of the storytelling, but kind of like the realism of Batman. I think that really did hit the perfect mix to me of what I would do with Batman. In that, we hear all the time he is the pinnacle of physical conditioning, and mental abilities, and the superhero genre, and he's just a human being, but again, to like damn near perfection. And you think you kind of see that in the Nolan films. It's sort of quasi-grounded in realism, in that, with some leaps of faith and suspending your disbelief just a little bit, the things that you see in the Nolan films is believable. Again, work with me here. Probable, no, but given the circumstances, I can see it. Can I see military-grade tech gliding technology that lets you jump from building to building and just glide. Absolutely. Do I see military grade vehicles that can rocket propel across ditches and all that stuff? Absolutely. Do I see some body armor that you can take a straight on shot or an angle shot from a gun and might get hurt but won't kill you? Absolutely. So those type of things I can see in realism. But what I think we get kind of lost in the fact is, and sometimes it's to the detriment, because again, I mean, you take it as Batman being at the peak of physical and mental conditioning. Absolutely. I am totally 100% on board with that. But sometimes I think, even in the movies or in the books, I think we kind of get a little bit carried away with that. And right off the bat, I can think of two perfect examples. One, I think it was in The Dark Knight, not the movie, the comic book. This is volume 2. This is definitely the last story arc. It was with the Man-Bat story. I do want to say it was the cliffhanger. So this is, this has to be the last issue. And what's happening is that Batman is going up against Man-Bat, and he tries to hit this serum into Batman, into a Man-Bat, and Batman's falling, and what he does is shoots two grappling hooks as he's falling down from the sky, thousands of feet up in the air, and the grappling hook attaches to two sides of the building, and basically Batman falls from sky, stops with the grappling hooks, and basically being held up by his two arms from the building. Now, any human being who would attempt to do that, their arms would just be ripped from their socket, and the person would just keep falling down and die. Okay. Again, that's taking your leap of faith a little bit too far. The next example I remember seeing is in Batman vs. Superman. Now, I'm not going to argue Batman vs. Superman as a movie. I enjoyed it, but it did have its flaws. But there were certain points in the movie, looking back at it now specifically, I just kind of go, no, I think that's taking too much. And it's the warehouse fight that, specifically in this case, Batman's going up against all those thugs with the KGB guy. And as he's fighting this whole room full of thugs, one of the thugs gets, not once, twice, or I think it was 3 or 4 times that he straight up shot him with a gun about 10 feet away, one of them being right in the back of the head. Now, okay, I got it. Again, I kind of said before about having possibility of military-grade technology where you might be able to catch a ricochet shot and be okay. But this was like a little too far. I mean, literally one where it was like execution style right in the back of the head, and you just expect that the cow would reflect. But okay, I'm going too far. But the point is, sometimes I think we stepped a little too far away from realism when dealing with Batman. And if I were to do a reboot of Batman right now in the comic books, I would kind of reel in the realism a little bit. But keep it in mind that you can push the envelope a little bit, being that Batman is, again, the peak of physical and mental abilities, and he has access to all this technology. So I think you can still push the envelope, but again, keep it at a level of realism where it's not so much. I was just going to use something totally cheesy. No, I'm not going to go there. It's believable. Maybe not possible, but given certain circumstances, believable. And that's how I would kind of go. Again, kind of using sort of the Christopher Nolan approach. What else? Again, keeping the themes with going back to basics. And I will kind of go back to basics with the supporting cast in Batman. Not necessarily just, the Bat family. even some of the villains kind of go back to basics. And what I mean by that in this case is keep it classic. If there's classic stories in the back in the day, you know, I mean, don't replace it. Case in being, let's see, one person in particular, yeah, Victor Zsasz. Where he's at now is almost like a 180-degree turn from where he was circa, you know, last Arkham and beyond, going even into Nightfall, whatever. You saw some really good Victor Zsasz moments, and where you see him right now, it's just not the same. I think we went a little far away from the core characteristics of the character, and that's just one. There's been a few. Who else? Case in point, although I enjoyed the heck out of it, the story, the burn, redoing the origin of Two-Face when we had a really good one in Long Halloween. I don't think I would have done that. I would kind of kept what it was. Hush, retweaking his origin in in Batman Eternal, when we had a perfectly good origin in obviously Hush. I mean, who else? Professor Pig. We need to go back to, you know, the Grant Morrison style of Professor Pig, not what we've seen lately. Which, by the way, if you've seen Gotham, the TV show actually had a really good adaptation of Professor Pig. But that's just on the rogue side, and there's even Burst got me more. Again, this is just me off the cuff. If I would think about it, there definitely would be more. Now, in fact, let me think about it for a minute. Riddler. There we go. I think we had a really good story in Riddler in Zero Year. Really good one in Dark Knight, Dark City, amongst others. But then we see him lately in The War of Jokes and Riddles. Again, I think we're just missing with Riddler. That is a mental foe to Batman, not as much as a physical one or a brawny one. But I think that's what we're getting more now, especially in this latest story, is that type of approach. I think we need to scale back in that. Who else will be? I think on the villain does I really want to mention, but on the Bat Family side, there's some work we need to do. First off, before I would go any further, Duke Thomas. Okay, no. I would be okay with him on the periph. That we saw in Zero Year and Endgame. Okay, he's there acknowledging. I acknowledge that, but he was just no. He's. I'm not. I refuse to be force fed him any more than I have to. It's almost a shame because in theory we could have done something good with him. I just definitely don't feel the need to put him in the forefront in the Bat Family when we had Harper Row being really developed really well. And I'm sorry, I mean, you dedicated dang near a whole near event to her in Batman and Robin Eternal, even though that's a lot Robin, but it was really heavily focused on Harper, and she basically just took a backseat to Duke Thomas. And for what? The Signal? I don't buy it. That is a huge mistake, I think, in my opinion. And if you like Duke Thomas, say good on you. Again, if looking back at it, I think there could have been an approach where he could be still used and been effective. But it's just, I just don't buy him being put to the forefront right now. And I'm not even going to speculate why that decision was made, but I really did enjoy Harper Row, and to be honest, I felt kind of cheated in that we were really being you know, let alone, and that's a strong word. But it just, the character was being developed so good, and it was just, you really felt like she was on the next step to really being prominent and just being taken to the back seat so Duke Thomas can put it in the front. It's just yuck. No, don't buy it. That would be the very first thing I'd change if I was in charge of a reboot. I'd say no to that. Keep him on, obviously, as a reoccurring character, absolutely. Impact on that, okay, but as what he is right now, nope, I would retcon that in a heartbeat. Who else? The origin, okay, Jason Todd. Now, this one might be a little controversial, being that I said just a few minutes ago, getting back to basics. That said, Jason Todd, I love Jason Todd. If I were to do anything with Jason Todd, I don't think I would do Death in the Family. And I would replace that with, brace yourself, Arkham Knight Genesis. If you read that 6-issue little mini that was done by Peter Tomasi not too long ago, it actually took a different approach to what happened between Joker and Jason Todd, and how obviously Jason Todd becoming the Arkham Knight quasi changed to Red Hood. And if you didn't know that, well, dude, I'm sorry. Batman Arkham Knight's been out for damn near almost 4 years now. I don't mean that as an insult. I'm just saying, don't really think I needed to say spoiler alert. But I will say, I'm not going to really spoil the story, in that I think it really does clean up a little bit. While Under the Red Hood has a really good movie, how Jason came back from death, quasi, what I guess is considered canon with Superboy, is really not all that, I want to say, popular. So I think by default, a lot of people use the Lazarus Pit explanation we saw in the movie as quasi the quote-unquote canon explanation for how Jason came back to life. But if you read Arkham Knight Genesis, I think there's a way that it's really logical. And the Lazarus Pit explanation was logical, but I like this way in that it really does what happened in that story. Really, I almost think it really messed up Jason even more. What he went through, in that he was really seeing Batman, what he was doing in real time. And again, I don't really want to spoil it, because if you haven't read that, it's actually a really good story. And kind of Jason's return is actually a little bit more believable. When I say return, quote unquote return, read it, you'll see it. But I think that's one of the origins in the Bat family I would consider a really severe change to the status quo, or getting back to basics. In that one, I would really make a significant part of the Arkham Knight Genesis story, canon for Jason and his mythology. So obviously, if you're gonna do something like that, a good writer would have to go ahead and take Jason's character and also devote a story incorporating those elements to kind of clean up Jason's timeline a little bit. And I think that's one thing I would do. Tim, I think what I would do, I would definitely, and this kind of hinges, well, what would you do with Damian? Damian, I would definitely keep as Robin. No doubt about it, I'm keeping him as is. But with Tim, I would take kind of the Dick approach, in that I would definitely concur, or at least make a canon. Tim was Robin once upon a time, but kind of take the approach like Dick did. At some point, he's got to be his own man thing. Oh, not man thing, like the character. That just really came off bad. He has to move on to go his own path, and in that way, you're kind of not necessarily ditching the Robin persona, but shedding that and obviously you becoming Red Robin, what he is now. So that one, I don't think it would be much of a significant change to Tim, and that way you can keep Lonely Place of Dying in canon. But that is something I would do. I mean, acknowledge that he was a Robin, no doubt about it, and that way we can definitely get rid of the Zero issue of Teen Titans. That won't be wiped away. But then what would you do as parents? And I got that. That's something. Are they alive? Are they not? That one I don't necessarily know. But I think what Tim, he had really a kind of a rough kind of approach since Damian came on board. I would just literally would have just tweaked it just a little bit. In fact, that to make it known that yes, he's Robin, but at some point he kind of moved on a little bit to do his own thing and adopt the persona of Red Robin, not in much as, being forced to make room for Damian. And the justification for why he originally came up with Red Robin is, you can see it, but it's still not right, I think, to the character. But that's what I would do. Just kind of use the Dick approach with Tim, and that, just like Tim, Robin to Nightwing, Tim doing the same thing, Robin to Red Robin, in making that transition, not being done with negative connotations. What else on the Bat family side? Obviously, with Batwoman, anything with the Mark Andreyko run, that is gone, erased, and I would kind of just go from there. Let's see. Harley. We're kind of going too far. Harley, I would tone down Harley a little bit. I'll just kind of keep it that. I like Harley. I like the book and all, but I think I just would have toned her down a little bit. Then now we're going beyond rebooting Batman and going into the whole arena of DC Comics, so I think we're kind of getting off topic. What else? Back to basics with the family. I think, to be honest, I think that's about it. I'm just, again, I have no notes, so this is me off the cuff, and sure enough, I'm going to finish this video and be like, oh crap, I forgot to mention that. I don't know. I think that's it for as far as the people. Now, one thing I would love to do, and this would be a heck of a challenge, and if DC were to do this would definitely be a little controversial, but I think for the big Batman fans, I think many people would really, you would have to sell it, but the diehards, I think, would be on board if you understood why you're doing what you're doing. I do think a revisit to the origin story of Batman / Bruce Wayne, I think I would do it. Now, hear me out. Don't be burned down my house or anything like that. Just hear me out. Twofold. One part of Batman that we really don't see that much is the development of Batman becoming Batman. You see a little bit of it in Gotham. Again, that's just a TV show, but just kind of. But in theory, you see kind of Batman becoming Batman, even then it's Bruce and a kid, but either way, but you kind of get what I'm saying. You're seeing a little bit of that story, where in the books you really don't see it all that much. I think in recent mind, the only thing that came close, I don't think there was the Zero issue in Detective Comics back in the New 52. It kind of dealt a little bit with his training. Obviously, you saw that in Batman Begins. I'm trying to think anything in books. You get things referenced. Obviously, with Nobody in Batman and Robin with the card. I'm trying to think, was there anything? Azir, I don't remember seeing training as much. I mean, like off the panel, hey, I'm going to visit the Himalayas. I'm running with Ducard and all that good jazz and becoming and whatever. And you see a little bit. I do take that back. You've seen a little bit, a tiny bit of it in the most recent story. I think we had in Detective Comics with Satana, kind of as he's grown up. But even then, it's not really training. It's more just his growth since then. So I would take it to a point where you're seeing a significant bunch of the retelling of the Batman origin, kind of focusing on that development of Batman. I'm even going back to, let's take it back to when he was a child. Again, you've seen a little bit of that in Zero, but it's kind of like flashes. But I mean, really going through the trauma and how he kind of interacted with some people and kind of see that development. And maybe not going to dwell in it and issues of him, going to grade school. I'm not saying that, but kind of maybe seeing just a short arc on just really the struggles that Bruce has had to go through as he kind of went through that tragedy following the death of his parents. I think that would be an interesting story. And then you follow it on with him again interacting with all these people that had a play in his training and development into what he is. Oh, you know what? There was another thing I wanted to mention about getting back to basics. But I think you can kind of tie it up in here what I'm getting ready to say. If not, I'll for sure remember to say it toward the end. Next part of the reboot with the origin story, again, bear with me, just hear me out. I would like somewhat of a retooling with Year 1 and Zero Year. And the reason I say that is I think there is a way to kind of blend those two stories together and make a cohesive story with the early career once, obviously Batman choosing to become Batman in that first year. And what I mean by that is what you see in the decision to become Batman is almost identical between Year 1 and Zero Year. But what happens about 2/3 into the story of Zero Year, you really don't see that much in Year 1, in that you don't see the thing with Dr. Death in Zero Year, where in Year 1 you're focusing more on the crime family. Where I wouldn't necessarily take away the Red Hood gang portion of Zero, absolutely not. I keep that in there because that was good. But maybe you kind of follow that up with the interactions between Batman and the Falcone, or the crime family that's there. The problem would be obviously syncing it up with the development of James Gordon, because Year 1 heavily predicated on James Gordon, and not necessarily. It's definitely was a role reversal, whereas James Gordon was definitely Year 1. A big heavy focus of it, and Batman obviously true, but there was a lot more Bruce Wayne and then James Gordon in Zero Year. So I would kind of take those two stories together, and I would then kind of blend it and kind of go from there. Again, bear with me because there will be in text. I think, like I said, Zero Year, save that middle part, I think really was a good story. And how you would have blended too with the Riddler's part in the story, I get it. Might be a little bit of a challenge, but I did think there was really good elements into those stories. And I think Scott Snyder was just stuck in a point where it's like everyone just loved Year 1. You can't really replace it. So he's kind of like, okay, I'm going to tell the story, but he kind of took a safe response to it and saying it's not really a meant to replace it, but just kind of modernize a little bit. I think you just kind of say, hey, you know what? Along with the development of the training and the rough childhood Batman as a child, we're going to do that. Also, let's look at that first year and kind of take those two stories, which are very good for what they are, kind of take out some of the necessary parts, some of the things that kind of don't make sense, and bring them together. and then go into what we see, and maybe you're incorporating. Maybe you do 1 year, maybe even 2 years later, where you're introducing. Obviously, you have the war jokes and riddles, but I was just going to go into Joker. You know what? Let's kind of leave that part. That even go into maybe year 2. So I think you're doing the cutoff as Long Halloween, where you're getting maybe kind of bleeding into the introduction of Long Halloween, but you're not replacing next door because I think that one needs to stay. So that's a big, huge story. And how I would go about doing it, this one, I don't think this is a very short project. This one would be a commitment. And I think for the Batman fans, especially diehards, who kind of take what I'm saying for kind of what it is, I think if you do it right, this really could be a really good project. Everyone will get on board. But again, this is one where you're going to do it. You can't half-ass this one. You have to go all in. And I think what you're looking at is you're getting the right team for this, and you cannot skimp on this. And I'm bringing Snyder in. I am bringing Grant Morrison in. I'd even bring Frank Miller in. And this is like an all-three project. And you're getting the artists. You're getting Capullo. You're getting Fabok. This is your all-star team. You're getting maybe 3 and 3. 3 writers, 3 artists. And you really plan this through. This could even be something like a Batman Eternal thing. Or maybe not. I don't know. Maybe you do this bi-weekly. But I think what you do with this one has to be planned out. And this is something that you kind of look at the approach that Sean Murphy did with his book he has right now, and Batman, the White Knight. That book is done. It is done. It's just went right into issue 1. It's going into a smooth publishing schedule. It's already done. Excuse me. And this is one, maybe this project doesn't launch for 3 years, and it just takes the whole creative team 3 years, and you're mapping this thing out, and you don't do deadlines, and you just do it right. And if it takes you 3 years to get the whole project complete, then you're launching short of getting like a 4-issue head start, and then you're always behind the power curve. No, this is one you invest in this, because this one you're really making some things right. You're really flushing some things out. And again, you gotta have the talent, get the right talent. You work the schedule where everything's not really jarring as if there's any transition, but it's clearly mapped out. Everyone's together, and the whole project is done for you. Print a page. And again, this is one where maybe takes 3 or 4 years, but maybe you do this. I don't know. Do you do this on a bi-weekly schedule? Do you just do it monthly? And I'll be honest, if you do it monthly, I'll be right up front and say I am totally fine with me. If you're gonna do something like this, get it on the good cardstock, on the nice glossy covers, and the good paper. I will pay the extra money if you give me a good quality product on this thing. And I don't care if it's bi-weekly or monthly or even weekly, as long as the quality's good. But this is one, you do it, you don't jump into it. Heck, you can just do graphic novel. I don't know. Maybe you do. See, I wouldn't want to do graphic novel in volumes, because that would just drive me nuts. You get done with volume 1 and you're waiting 6 months to get volume 2. Heck no, I'll be along for the journey. So I would say maybe bi-weekly might be the right way to go. And again, I wouldn't mind paying the money, get it on good paper, get it on good quality. But the key would be to do this, and you really map this thing out. And again, you don't even print a page, that thing is done. That's the way I would do it. Going back to a thing I pointed out, I would kind of messed up before. So that would just be in the origin. But let's go in kind of where I would do in the bat titles now, and I'm 34 minutes. I'm going to try to wrap this up here pretty quick. Again, kind of going back with the realism thing, one thing I think I would also kind of focus into is the detective aspect on Batman. I don't think you see that as much. I think you get more of the Batman as a superhero type of story. You don't see that much of the detective aspect. And I would love to see that kind of come back into play. So that was the one point I wanted to make. Lastly, what I would do, this might sound like heresy, but the publication of Batman, I would kind of maybe take a step back a little bit. When I say Batman, I'm talking mainly Batman Detective, because right now both are being shipped bi-weekly. No, I would pick one myself. I would pick the Batman title. That would be my top tier book. And what I would do, again, I would even bump it up $1. Heck, even I don't know if I go $4.99. Do $3.99. Okay, got it. Maybe even $4.50. Nah, I really like to keep books at $3.99. I really don't like going much more than that. But if anything else, okay, $4.99. Got it. But you get that thing on a good cover, glossy paper, and you just do it once a month. But you get the page count up and you're telling good stories. And then Detective, you can kind of get the more exposure, do the bi-weekly things. So you got your main book, Batman, which again, you got your good talent on there, you got the good paper and the good storytelling. Again, bark the price up, maybe $1, I got it. But you keep that on a monthly release schedule just like it used to be. And maybe keep Detective on a bi-weekly schedule, which you could still do that, and I think that'd be all right. But other than that, again, just thinking about it, I don't know what else I would change other than, again, just going back to basics, tweaking the minor things. The biggest thing would be the origin story project, which you can do it. And I would be on board, knowing that obviously the creative team had to be superstars, and the talent had to be Jeff Johns. He's definitely involved in that thing too, which I might be sacrilegious for some. But again, a lot of it is just going back to basics, using some sort of realism, believable realism. Again, not probable, but believable. And integrating more of the detective back into it. I mean, other than that, I don't think I would really say anything else. Other than that, I would just find a way to, again, I know I kind of mentioned it with the Rogues, just get all the old stories back. Because I think you can do it to where all the pre-New 52, New 52, and the Rebirth stories can be all put in canon. The stuff that was before, even the New 52 stuff, the stuff's going on now. Just try to tweak little things if necessary. But I mean, stuff like, Tales of the Demon and Venom and all those classics. I'm not going to go on and ramble, but they still have their place. Bring them back, make sure they're canon, and it's back to basics. That's the thing I would do. So anyway, 37 minutes. I went too long. Thank you for staying on and paying any sort of attention if you've done so to this point. Again, Sleepy, he just kind of just threw this out there, so feel free to take this tag video and kind of run with it and share it, and love to hear what anyone has to say, and let me know in the comments below what you think, and we'll kind of go from there. I am sure my redoing of the Batman origin will kind of ruffle some feathers, especially with mentioning who I will put on there. Artists, I only mentioned a couple: Capullo, Fabok. Oh yeah, Jock, he's on. Somehow, some way, Jock's on there. Who else would I throw on there? Murphy. See, the tough part will be, again, keep it to a style that's kind of seamless, to where if the artists need to kind of work their timeline, it's not so jarring. Even with Jock, that would be kind of jarring. I don't know. That'd be the challenge, but again, that's the decision I have to be made. I just wouldn't half-step it. So, anyway, rambling. Until next video, take care.